This here is sample number 14, and this shows you the concept of gathering fabric. So let me show you what you need to get started. Okay, so everyone will get a copy of this template, and then there's a couple of these, and you'll just need to cut this one out so that it ends up looking like this. And then the grain is already marked on this piece here, which it's the width direction, not length. And then as for this piece, the grain needs to go parallel with this top edge here. So it'll need to look something like this. So make sure you add this grain line. And let me show you what you need to get started. Okay, just to show you, I made sure to find the grain, the warp threads, and they are going in this direction. I did a little rip test here on this piece and this side here to find those warp threads. So I have aligned my grain here as the arrows show, and I'm going to cut out my pieces. Okay, once you've cut out your pieces, go ahead and grab this longer piece, and we're going to take this to the sewing machine where we are going to do these gathering stitches as you see in this picture. So I will show you. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is we need to adjust the stitches per inch. So we've already practiced this, and we need to put it up to 5 millimeters. Okay, and we're going to do all three just on one side of the fabric, and the stitch line that is the most inward can only be up to 1/2 inch, and then the other two can be somewhere closer to the edge, and you can just do 2 or 3. It's up to you. So basically 1/2 inch should be between this 3/8 and 5/8 marking on the plate here. So if I just line my fabric up, yep, and it should just automatically measure 1/2 inch for me. Do not backspace at the beginning or the end. This is a special case where we need to be able to pull the strings and have no knots interfere. So do not backstitch. And this is going to go pretty fast because the stitch length is so long. Okay, again, don't backspace, don't backstitch. And leave the strings kind of long. So kind of that long here, and they were already kind of this long here. Perfect. Now, for my next one, I'll probably do inner width of the presser foot, and I'm going to do it by aligning this previous stitch line along the edge of this left toe. Don't back stitch, kind of long. Perfect. So again, like I said, it's up to you if you want to do 2 or 3. I'm just going to do 3 for my example, and then I'm going to show you what to do next. Okay, so once you've added those 3 gathering stitches, we're now going to do the actual gathering part. So basically, it might be a little easier to see on this example. We need to gather the fabric enough that it is the length of the curved part of this triangle shape, so, or cone shape, I guess. So, as you can see, I gathered the strings enough that it's not quite the right length, but pretty close. And how you do that is you grab the 3 top strings. So you might need to, like, I don't know, separate them with like a tool really quickly. So I just have the top 3 strings, and then I just kind of hold on to them gently so you don't break them, and then just kind of pull the fabric. And then once you've gathered it in a spot, you can kind of hold the strings and kind of push the gathers to be a little more evenly distributed. So like really gathered, not gathered like very much. You want to try and make it even across. So I'm gonna, to do that, I'm gonna go to the other side and try and grab the top 3 strings here, in which they love to get tangled, so that can be kind of tricky sometimes. And okay, top 3 strings, pull, spread out a little, pull, spread out. And it's okay if you gather too much, because then you can just, you know, loosen it back up. So you'll play around with this until you get it to be the same length. So go ahead and do that. Okay, so I have managed to gather this top part to meet the same length as this. And now they need to get attached together, because it's going to end up looking something like this when it's all done. So to work backwards, essentially, if we want it to look like this, where you don't see the edge at all, just this kind of fold line on the outside, then working backwards, that's essentially taking this cone and just flipping it down, and then attaching this all along the curved part of the cone, and then it's sewn like that. So I recommend that you just kind of start from one end, and again, make sure that you kind of spread out the gathers as evenly as possible, and you can always kind of change it as you're pinning. And so I'm going to start with this corner, throw a pin in there, okay, and then please try and match the edges, even though one is gathered, as closely as possible. Don't try and pin it like this or like this. Try and match them up lengthwise, like that. And then like that. Just about an inch apart. That's probably about all you need. Don't need to get too crazy with the pins. And the fabrics are trying to resist a little, because I'm putting like 2 different shapes together, but we can make them cooperate. Now I'm coming to the edge here, and I'm noticing that it might actually be too long, so I might just kind of gather it up a little more. Okay. And perfect. Right right at the end there. And I just want to make sure, there we go. So like I said, when it's sewn, it'll look something like this. But we had to flip the cone upside down and then attach it, work our way backwards. In terms of sewing, it's going to be a 1/2 inch seam allowance on a curve. So let me show you how to do a curve. Okay, so when you're ready to do a curve, first of all, I recommend that you make sure that the gathering is on top, and of course the pins coming out in the direction of where you'll be pulling them out, because we can guarantee the bottom is going to remain flat, but we want to be able to see what's happening on top so that we don't start, you know, sewing and then it kind of comes up and gathers like this, or, you know, does funky stuff, which might happen if it's underneath and we can't see it and monitor it. So do it on top and align the edge here with the 1/2 inch marking on the plate between 3/8 and 5/8 inches. And then you will backstitch, because this is a final seam. We're not going to be messing around with the seam. And you're basically going to just right here at this point keep this edge matching up with this line, and don't worry about what the rest of it is doing. All right. Oh, and I didn't set it back down to 2.4. 2.4 default stitch length. Okay. So just watch this part here where the plate is the line, the edge of the fabric. Time to pull out that pin. I am kind of holding these down a little bit, and I'm helping the fabric curve because the machine's not going to do it for me. The area in the middle kind of has a little less curve to it. It's not as extreme. Stitch. Okay. Let's see what it turned out like. All right, ta-da! So there's a lot of strings happening around here, and it's okay if a little string from the gathering pokes out on this side. Just go ahead and, you know, with a seam ripper, you can just take it out. We don't need it to be visible anymore. And you will cut off all these excess strings before you turn it in. And that is how you do gathering.